Hello everyone. It's great to see you all again on the channel. Today, we will open the door to time, not to admire beautiful scenery or attend royal parties, but to step into a period that you will wish you were never born into, the Middle Ages. Forget about the dazzling images that films have painted, the majestic castles, the brave knights, or the golden-haired princess. Standing on the balcony, gazing into the distance, the harsh reality is, if you had the opportunity to travel back to this era, you might not survive until evening. But wait, before we begin, if you love strange stories, time travels, and that slight chill down your spine when you think about how your ancestors lived, then be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel right now. And if you are watching this video at midnight in a dark room, then even better. Please leave a comment to let me know where you are and what time it is. It's great to connect with you all from all over the world. So, are you ready? Turn down the lights, get comfortable, because tonight's journey will take you to a terrifying morning in the year 1325. Congratulations, you just opened your eyes. And welcome to the 14th century. The good news first, you're still alive. The bad news is, so are the fleas. And it seems they've had a lavish party on your back all night. You lie there, on a bed, that would be rejected by a museum exhibit for being too crude. It's a mattress, made of dry, clumpy, rotten straw, emitting a stench, filled with insects, weeds, and things you wouldn't dare to name. No sheets, no soft pillows, nothing to provide comfort. All you have is a heavy, dirty wool blanket and cold as ice. This blanket hasn't been washed since last winter. You're not sure if it keeps you warm or just wraps your own corpse every night. The church bells echo from afar. That's the only alarm clock in this time. No phones, no alarm clocks. Just a noisy bell as if the world is coming to an end. But that's just the start of a new day. You get out of bed and immediately realize walking is a challenge. Your body aches as if you've been laboring continuously for 72 hours. The air in the house is bitterly cold, penetrating to the bone. You're 22 years old, and people call you middle-aged. Your spine creaks like a rotten wooden door. Each step is a gamble. Either you slip on the damp ground from rain soaking through the thatched roof, or you step in someone's chicken's artwork that snuck in last night. Looking around the house, or rather the dilapidated wooden shack, you sigh. No windows, no soundproof walls, no private rooms. Your entire family, from parents to siblings, even a few distant relatives, all sleep together in one space. And it's not just people, but also pets, goats, chickens, dogs, and bugs. A lot of bugs. The smell? A fragrant combination of mildew, sweat, animal waste, and a bit of stale beer still lingering on the ground from last night's drinking session. Scented candles? Sorry, they haven't been invented yet. Open a window for ventilation? Oh, what window? You try to stretch, then exhale heavily as your body protests in agony. Every movement is a reminder that you're living in an era without painkillers, no massages, no vitamins. Even no hot water to wash your face in the morning. Speaking of privacy, you've long forgotten that concept. Everyone wakes up at the same time. No curtains, no walls. Every morning is an involuntary family gathering. Everyone prepares to face a brutal day of work, and you're just trying to survive. You sit there, on the damp ground, looking out through the door crack, where the first light of morning shines in. A new day begins, with all the stench, the itchy discomfort, and the pressure of survival in the 14th century. And that was just the morning. What do you think? Are you ready to return to the 21st century? Leave a comment, as that is the only way I know you survived this first part. If you are ready for the next part, Chapter 2, the outdoor toilet, let me know, and I will continue this forgettable journey in the Middle Ages. Part 2, Chapter 2, outdoor toilet. Welcome back to the medieval survival experience. If you survived the stinky and insect-filled morning from the previous chapter, congratulations. But don't celebrate just yet, because right after you wake up, your body gently reminds you, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. And this is when you realize nature is calling. And not in a gentle way, but in a way that means you have to run right now. So, let's talk seriously. What was it like to go to the bathroom in the Middle Ages? Forget about shiny porcelain toilets, motion sensor lights, 3-ply toilet paper, or even a magical bidet. None of that existed. In the 14th century, taking care of business was a journey, both unsanitary and degrading. If you were an average farmer, which made up about 90% of the population back then, your bathroom was not a room. It was just a wooden bucket. That's right, one bucket. This bucket was usually placed behind the house, or, if you were saving space, it could be right in the corner of the tent where you slept. Finished using it? Great. Now onto the waste disposal part. You open the door, step outside, look around, and dump it all out onto the street. Yes, onto the street. In the middle of town. Everyone did it. Everyone understood the rules. Before you dumped, you had to shout a "Gardyloo," a warning like "Watch out below." Although, to be honest, no one really had time to dodge. And what was the result? The streets back then were no different from giant sewers. Human waste, animal waste, fish cleaning water, dirty kitchen water, all flowed continuously through the streets like a dark stream. You walked through it in the morning, and your shoes, if you had any, would quickly become biological weapons. Now imagine you live in a slightly larger, more advanced town. You hear rumors of public toilets. Sounds more modern, right? Not really. Public toilets back then were a series of seated holes, like a long bench with holes where people sat next to each other. No partitions, no curtains, no lockable doors. You are sharing with nature, and at the same time, a stranger is sharing right next to you. A kind of community connection you never asked for. Toilet paper? Sorry, none. People used straw, tree bark, old rags, even bare hands. And that's why handshaking was never popular back then. Now you get it. What if you belonged to the nobility, living in a castle? Then you had the privilege of using what they called a garderobe. Sounds like a fancy perfume, but actually, it's just a hole in the wall. You sit on it, and everything falls freely from a height of 5 meters straight down into the moat below. And do you know what's strange? People used to think the smell rising from the garderobe helped ward off evil spirits. Yes, human waste was once a protective charm back then. Anyway, if you were an enemy planning to infiltrate the castle through the water moat, sorry. You'd have to swim through an ocean of dung first. A rather effective layer of protection in a very twisted way. Don't think you can take care of business quickly in the woods or bushes. That was also an idea, until you realized that the medieval forest wasn't a national park. There were robbers, wild animals, and strict laws. In fact, in some areas, doing your business on a lord's land without permission could get you whipped. You read that right. Whipped for pooping in the wrong place. What about washing up afterward? Well, that didn't exist either. Clean water was a luxury. No showers, no bathtubs, no soap. If you were lucky, you might wash your hands with a shared bucket of water in the house. But usually, people didn't wash at all. The result was that the stench in residential areas was so thick that today, if you were transported back there for just 5 minutes, you'd pass out from the smell shock. No joke. Modern tourists have fainted when stepping into houses that perfectly recreate medieval living conditions. That living space was a combination of everything the human body could produce, without ever being cleansed. All of this helps you understand why epidemics spread like wildfire back then. Given such sanitary conditions, it's a wonder humanity didn't go extinct. Many cities were even called the gigantic garbage bin, because as soon as you stepped out the door, you'd see enough of the residents' biological products lying underfoot. And imagine, while you are trying to use the toilet without slipping or stepping on something horrible, at the same time, someone else from the upper floor could pour urine right down on your head. Every morning going out is a dangerous game, a competition to dodge poop at a difficult level. So you have taken care of personal needs under the worst sanitary conditions in history. Now what? You are still alive, not yet sick with dysentery, and haven't contracted the plague. Congratulations, medieval warrior. But don't breathe a sigh of relief just yet. There is still a long day ahead. And now your stomach is growling. Welcome to Chapter 3, The Breakfast of Champions. Survivors. Congratulations. After a survival battle in the medieval toilet game, you are still standing. Not falling, not caught by a biobomb, and most importantly, still alive from infection. But now your stomach is starting to growl like a battle drum. It's time for breakfast. So what to eat? Fried eggs? Honey butter toast? Rare beef pho? No, absolutely not. Remember that you are living in 14th century Europe. Here breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. It is anything that can be shoved into your mouth without killing you immediately. You step to the corner of the tent's kitchen. In fact, there is nothing that resembles a kitchen here. It's just a small fire pit, often extinguished by the draft and dampness. On it sits a pot, old, blackened, and seemingly has not been cleaned since your great-grandfather's time. Inside the pot is the most characteristic dish of the poor in the Middle Ages, pottage, or as it's also known, the eternal pot of porridge. It may sound quaint, but the reality is, well, just imagine a porridge made with leftover vegetables, gruel, old beans, a few pieces of dried turnip. Add water, and every day you just pour new ingredients in, never throwing out the old ones. The result is a thick, gray-brown mixture, steaming and smelling as if someone dumped a basket of dirty socks into the pot. You scoop out a spoonful. It neither flows nor is solid. It's standing still like a lump of mud. Want to take a bite? It tastes like dirt, mixed with wilted onion roots and a bit of mold. But you have to eat it, as there's no other option. Accompanying the pottage is a piece of bread. But don't imagine soft, fluffy, fragrant bread like in modern bakeries. The bread here is so hard that throwing it at someone's head could knock them out. It is made from rye flour or coarse barley, often mixed with sawdust, acorns, or anything that can be ground. You try to break a piece of bread. It doesn't crumble. It snaps. And the snapping sound is even crisper than the sound of your bones each morning. What is for breakfast today? Not coffee, not nut milk, and certainly not water. The water is full of worms, bacteria, and feces. You never drink plain water if you want to live for a few more days. Instead, you drink small beer, a light beer with a very low alcohol content, but enough to kill some of the germs. And yes, even children drink beer in the morning. You sit there at 7 a.m., holding a bowl of gray-brown porridge, gnawing on bread like it's rock, sipping beer as thin as washed rice water. And that is the breakfast of the surviving champion. You may wonder, why not eat eggs, meat, or milk? Well, you might have a few chickens, but you would never dare to eat eggs regularly. Each egg is a tiny treasure. It's saved for holidays or traded for salt, candles, or fabric. And meat? In this time, slaughtering a domesticated animal is not simply cooking. It's a big event. Sometimes the whole village comes to watch. You only eat meat when there's a festival or when the animal dies naturally, at which point you have to eat very quickly before it starts to smell. What about milk? You wouldn't dare use much of it either. Most of the milk is used for making butter or cheese, to stock up. With one cow, the daily milk yield is scant and cannot be wasted on a bowl of cereal in the morning, like in modern times. And to be fair, that pottage is not just breakfast. It serves as lunch and sometimes dinner as well. It is the multi-use food of a hard time. Some households cook just one pot that lasts the whole week. And when they say last the whole week, they mean literally. They just keep heating it up, adding a little more vegetable, some grains, a bit of water, and that's how they maintain it. If you feel squeamish, don't forget, human bodies back then had miraculously adapted to eating unsanitary, nutritionally deficient food. They had no choice. And if you were born in that time, you'd likely see there's nothing really terrible about it. Now that you've finished eating, it seems your body is still functioning. Not food poisoned yet? Great. So you survived your first breakfast in medieval Europe. And notably, there is nothing called working yet. What you have experienced until now is just preparation for work. Breakfast is done. You wipe your belly, lick your fingers, if you still have the sensation, and stand up. Because the church bells ring once again, signaling work time. And if you think the past part was bad, you've never plowed a field with bare hands under scorched sun, while your back aches, your belly is hungry, and your feet trample over all sorts of natural litter. See you in Chapter 4, Fashion and Insects. Welcome back to the time travel journey, where every morning is a survival challenge and every meal is a stomach test. But if you think surviving breakfast is the hardest part, then I'm sorry, you still haven't gotten dressed. Yes, now is the time you have to get dressed up, and this is not the stylish mix and match on TikTok, nor is it the outfit of the day. This is 14th century fashion, where aesthetics, hygiene, and comfort all surrender. You open your wardrobe, which is actually a wooden hook stuck into the tent wall, and realize you have exactly one set of clothes. One set. Only. There's no question about what to wear this morning. Change this afternoon, and swap for something fancy for the evening party. You have a wool cloak, if you're lucky, or a linen garment, if you're even poorer. And you've been wearing it every day for how long now? Can't remember. Maybe a few months, maybe a whole year. Don't even think about doing laundry. No soap, no detergent, no washing machine. The only way to clean your clothes is to hang them outside to air out or bang them in the stream. If you live near a stream and don't mind swimming with eels, leeches, and cow dung. The result? Your clothes are always as stiff as armor and smell like compost. You pull the garment over your head, The first feeling is itch. Itchy, as if someone just dumped a whole bag of wool scraps, straw bits, and fire ants on you. And yes, that's right. You're not itching from imagination. You're itching because fleas, lice, mites, and garment beetles. You're not the only one. Back then, everyone had lice. From farmers, blacksmiths to priests, even the nobility, no one escaped the fate of the mobile parasites. Some even set trends by burning lice off their clothes with candles, if you're rich enough to have candles. You would smell the mix of burnt hair and burnt lice, a distinctive smell that cannot be mistaken for anything modern. Lice don't just live on your head, but also around the collar, inside the sleeves, armpits, back, and groin. And every time you scratch, something is bound to pop out of your skin. But the scariest part is not that you have lice. It's that everyone else doesn't care about it. You might be talking to the parish priest, scratching your head, and he's scratching his belly. And both of you just continue the conversation as if lice are part of life. And they really are. Returning to the outfit, it has no buttons, no zipper. You have to tie knots, fasten straps, and wrap fabric. The trousers are just 2 pieces of cloth wrapped around your legs, tied with thin rope. The shirt is a long, shapeless piece of fabric, with no fit, no size. Tall people wear it the same way short people do, a true, free size. Sometimes you might have an extra cloak if it's cold, but guess what? It's just as heavy, dirty, and smells as bad as the outfit you're wearing. What about shoes? If you have leather shoes, you're one of the rich. Most people go barefoot. They're used to calloused feet, stepping on sharp stones, animal feces, and even mousetraps. Shoes are considered a luxury item and only worn in winter when the ground is cold enough that you could lose a few toes from foolishly going barefoot. Now you're fully dressed. The smell of sweat permeating the fabric mixes with the dampness from the night before. Then you step outside, where the whole village is dressed exactly like you. No personal style, no bright colors. Everyone wears one color, brown. They all look like they walked out of a moldy charcoal drawing. Bright colors are a privilege only the nobility can afford, because dyes are very expensive. A green dye could cost as much as a sheep. If you're a woman, it doesn't get any better. Your dress is a long piece of fabric wrapped around you, covering from neck to ankle. There's no real underwear. No bras. Just layers of coarse fabric piled on top of each other. And yes, ladies are also infested with lice. In some places, it's customary to wear a hat or scarf whenever going outside. Not for beauty, but to keep the lice from falling into other people's food. You see, in this era, people are more concerned about lice hygiene than washing their hands. And don't forget, the weather is not gentle. In winter, you wear an additional 1 to 2 thick wool layers, but they still get wet and cold as ice. In summer, you still have to wear enough layers. You can't dress skimpily because showing skin is a sin. The result? You sweat like rain and keep living with bugs. So now you are fashionably medieval. No one will compliment your beauty. No one cares how you mix outfits. But at least you've blended in. Welcome to the survival costume. Every outfit is a challenge. Every time you change clothes is a liberation of bugs. And every day you wear that same outfit is a mental test you never expected. Are you ready to step out to work? Under the sun? In your damp clothes? and with a whole miniature zoo living on your skin? Just wait until you meet Chapter 5. The Deadly Smile. You'll see. The scariest thing isn't the bacteria, but your very smile. Welcome back. You are dressed in a thick, smelly outfit full of parasites, with a belly swollen with the remnants of scraped pot rice. And your mind is still struggling with the concept that personal hygiene is a luxury. But it's okay. At least you are still intact. Now, stand in front of the mirror and flash a morning smile. Wait a minute. Where's the mirror? That's right. There is no mirror. A mirror is such a luxury that only nobles or large monasteries can afford. Ordinary people wishing to see their face must find a still puddle of water, praying for clear skies and calm winds. But never mind, you don't even need to check, because smiles in the Middle Ages are not something everyone wants to see. Do you remember Colgate? Close-up? Cool mint toothpaste? Electric toothbrush buzzing? Forget all of that. In the Middle Ages, there was no toothpaste, no dental floss, no specialized dentists, and absolutely no concept of daily oral care. Oral hygiene was on par with wiping your butt with leaves. People could pick their teeth with sharp twigs or chew on mint bark if they could find it. But these efforts were like trying to hold back a tsunami with a stone. Totally hopeless in the face of decades of junk food, contaminated water, and beer for breakfast. By the age of 20, you might have lost 2 to 3 teeth. By the age of 30, your mouth is an abstract painting. Broken teeth, chipped teeth, teeth with holes, swollen purple gums, bleeding gums like something out of a horror novel. And of course, your breath? You don't want to know. You smile, everyone turns away. You talk, people tilt their heads to avoid the wind. You yawn, someone might faint thinking you just opened the gates of hell. But surprisingly, no one finds it strange, because everyone is the same. But what if you have a toothache? Well, let me introduce you. The barber surgeon. Sounds fancy, but this is a man with knives, a basin of water, and a wooden chair. Just this morning he cut your hair, and now at noon he's ready to pull out your number 7 tooth with a rusty pliers. No anesthetics, no sedation, no sterilization. You sit, gripping the armrests, grinding your remaining teeth, and praying. The sound of crack echoes. Who knows if it's a broken tooth or a dislocated jaw? Blood flows like a river. You're handed a piece of rag to stop the bleeding, along with advice. Drink a little wine. If you don't die from blood loss, remember to pray tonight. If you're lucky, the wound heals. If not, infection. And in those days, a tooth infection could not only cause facial swelling, but could lead to sepsis. A cavity could become a death sentence. Some lucky ones made it to a monastery, where monks sometimes knew a bit about herbs. You might get to rinse your mouth with chamomile tea, root concoctions, or garlic wine. But let's be honest, it only helps. You feel better before dying in agony. Medieval dentures? Yes, but wooden teeth, animal teeth, or teeth from the dead. Right, the dead. You lose a few teeth, the monastery finds recently deceased people, extracts their teeth, and implants them into your mouth. Fastened with beeswax, iron wire, or nothing at all. A smile, and the teeth fall out. Bite too hard and your jaw breaks, but at least you still have a smile, in a very Frankenstein way. You might think the world back then must not have had smiles, but not really. Medieval people still smiled, still sang, still told jokes. It's just that their smiles often came with a smell of corpse. Interestingly, they felt no shame, because appearance mattered less than existence. Starving to death, dying from disease, dying from cavities was commonplace. They didn't live to take selfies. They lived to not die. What about the nobles? Not everyone is better off. Even with money, they don't understand bacteria or periodontal disease. They might use perfumed mouthwash or chew cloves, but the effect only goes as far as making the smell of decayed teeth a little less pungent. Ancient Romans had a formula for whitening teeth using urine. Some people in the Middle Ages continued that tradition. Yes, they rinsed their mouths with urine and believed that if the bad smell goes away, it must be effective. It goes away just because what you're rinsing with is worse than the original smell. Now let's return to you. You, a grown adult, have survived sleeping, hygiene, eating, and dressing. But to smile is to condemn yourself to meeting St. Peter. Decayed, foul-smelling, and aching teeth are not just a source of embarrassment. They are a life-threatening menace. Imagine you're plowing a field, and your teeth ache so badly it reaches your brain. Your hands shake, your legs buckle. You can't eat, you can't sleep. A fever sets in. And there's no medical station, no paracetamol, no pharmacy. Just you, a candle, a prayer, and a festering, bleeding tooth. Welcome to a world where the deadly smile is not just a metaphor. It is a reality. And you'll need even more strength, because after that smile is when you have to start working. No office, no desk, no deadlines, just fields, a rusty hoe, a hunchback, and a master you've never met. See you in Chapter 6, Work or Slow Death. Welcome to the next part of the adventure, a day of misery in medieval Europe. You have survived a sleep full of bugs, a makeshift toilet, a bowl of mush for breakfast, and a smile, like a plague curse. Now it's time to go to work. That's right. There's no rest a bit, no finish your cup of tea, or check your emails in the morning. Here, the workday begins when the sun rises and only ends when you have no strength left to get up off the ground. Career? You have exactly one choice. Farmer, unless you are born into the nobility, a cleric, or lucky enough to be trained as a craftsman. Otherwise, you are a serf, something between a person and property. You do not own land. You work on the Lord's land, a person who may have never seen your face, but has the right to tax you to the point where you have no mush left to eat. You have to plow the fields, sow seeds, harvest, tend cattle, milk cows, clean dung, patch roofs, make roads, dig ditches. Everything. And no, you are not paid. You are only allowed to live on his land. In exchange, you must work until death. A standard workday. Wake up to the church bells at 4 or 5 in the morning. Eat a bowl of cold porridge from the night before. Grab a hoe, axe, or sickle, depending on the season, and head to the fields. Work continuously until noon. Rest for exactly a few minutes. Eat a bit of stale bread or a piece of cheese, if there's any left. Work until sunset. Return home, plop down on the ground. Scratch your lice, chew the porridge, pray, then sleep. There is no concept of Saturday, Sunday. There is only Sunday, a temporary break, provided you are not in the harvest season or called to repair roads or summoned to fight. Work tools? No plow, no harvester, just a wooden hoe, a steel sickle, and calloused hands to the point that you can slice an onion without shedding a tear, because you no longer have feeling. You bend down to plow the fields for 10 to 12 hours every day. Your back hurts, Your neck is stiff, and your knees are weak. Every time you stand up, your spine cracks as if trying to signal, "I've had enough." There are no painkillers, no neck pillows, just a rock-solid mentality. If you stop working, you will have nothing to eat. Weather? You work in all conditions: rain, sun, wind, cold, storms, snow. If the fields are not sown at the right time or the harvest fails, your whole family will starve in winter. So you keep going, even if you have a fever, cough, toothache, twisted ankle, or are swollen with pus. In winter, the ground is as hard as stone. The wind whips at every inch of the moldy wool fabric you are wearing. With cold, stiff hands, you still have to dig the earth to bury seeds. Summer is different. The sun blazes like fire, you sweat soaking wet, but still have to go harvest, because if not, the rice will spoil, and you will spoil along with it. No hats, no gloves, no refreshing drinking water or cool towels to wipe your sweat. You drink weak beer, wipe sweat with your sleeve, and hope you don't get sunstroke. What if you get sick? There is no leave. You don't go to the hospital. You drink a little grass water, or if you have time, visit the monastery for bloodletting with a dull knife. If you break your arm, wrap it with cloth, continue to hold the sickle with the other hand. If you have a fever, drink a bit more liquor and try to forget it. No work equals no food. And then there were other obligations. The Lord could command you to fix the roads, haul wood from the forest to the castle, build bridges, construct walls, dig ditches, repair the stables. Go to war, if there was one. You were property. If the Lord needed you, you had to be there. Refuse, you'd be punished. Severely, you'd be flogged. Even worse, you'd lose your right to use the land, which meant starving to death. So, was there anything good about the work? The answer is very rarely. Perhaps only the feeling of surviving another day, the feeling of sowing a seed and seeing it sprout, or a beautiful sunny day when no one got hurt and no one was sick. Occasionally, during a saint's day or a harvest festival, the whole village would get a day off. They might drink ale, sing songs, and tell ghost stories. But only for one day. The next day, you were back to toiling in the dirt. And what about the women? They worked just as hard as the men, if not harder. After cooking, washing, and caring for the children, they also had to go to the fields. On top of that was the duty of childbirth, and there were no hospitals. Many women worked the fields while pregnant, and just a few days after giving birth, they had to return to hoeing the soil. A newborn might be strapped to its mother's back in a piece of cloth while she was weeding. And if the child was unfortunately weak, hungry, or sick, it meant another small grave behind the house. And don't forget, you were not allowed to complain. No one cared how tired you were. There was no HR team to file a complaint with, no boss to ask for work from home. You were a cog in the machine of survival, and you had to keep moving or be left behind. You returned home at the end of the day, hands trembling, legs aching, covered in mud and sweat. You ate your bowl of cold pottage, lay down on the straw bed, the lice still not cleared out. And you prayed that you would still wake up the next morning. Congratulations, you've just completed a workday in medieval Europe. No bonus, no salary, no opportunities for personal development. Only survival, if you were tough enough. But don't celebrate just yet. Because when the seasons changed, the weather would be your new enemy. And no, there was no air conditioning, no warm blankets, no umbrellas. See you in Chapter 7, Punishing Weather, where nature wasn't just freezing cold or scorching hot, but primitively cruel. Welcome back, hardy survivor of the Middle Ages. You've dragged yourself through a long day of work, your hands are calloused, your spine feels like it's about to snap. Your dinner is the same old porridge, and now you think that at least the night will be a time to rest. No way. This is when the weather hits you. We live in a house with mud walls, a leaky thatched roof, no glass doors, no soundproofing, no air conditioning, and you are not allowed to choose today's weather as mild sunshine, cool breeze, temperature 22 degrees Celsius. You're in 14th century Europe, where nature is the real boss, and he's never in a good mood. Winter, the cold killer. Let's start with winter. You wake up in the morning, but the first thing you feel isn't hunger. It's cold, as if you've just been thrown into the ice cellar of a morgue. Your straw bed has been damp for weeks, and your wool blanket is the same one from last winter, heavy as a calf and moldy enough to sprout mushrooms at any moment. You shiver, your teeth chattering like you're playing castanet, trying to reach out from under the covers to, well, there's nothing. There's no heating to turn on. There's just a dying fire in the middle of the house that you hope left some embers from last night. Fireplace? Yes, but you don't have enough wood to burn it. Why? Because most of the forests were the property of the lords, and if you cut wood illegally, you wouldn't be punished by fine. You could be hanged. Being poor is miserable. Being cold is freezing to death. And not even being able to go into the forest to find firewood to keep warm. Many families burned dried cow dung, rotten leaves, or anything else that burned. Smoke filled the house. Children coughed, and adults huddled in dark corners, praying to get through the day. You have no socks, no scarf, no winter clothes. Just the same old linen coat you've been wearing since June. If you catch a cold, too bad. A fever could kill you. But you still have to go to the fields because winter is no reason to stop living. Summer, natural furnace. If you survive the winter, congratulations. You're about to burn alive in the summer. Your mud house retains heat extremely well in the winter, but in the summer it becomes a literal earth oven. Outside 35 degrees, inside like sitting in a pot of porridge. You have no fans, no air conditioning, no sweat-wicking shirts or anti-rash underwear. Just the same woolen clothes you've been wearing all year. Sweat pours out and it won't dry. The stench mixes with goats, humans, old beer and chicken droppings, the so-called native perfume of the Middle Ages. You can't take off your clothes. Showing skin is an act of moral outrage, but even a pair of bare feet can get you scolded in church. And you still have to work outdoors, in the middle of the field, in the hot sun, with a wooden hoe and your bare back under the rays of death. No sunglasses, no sunscreen, just flies. Oh, flies. Flies, mosquitoes, fleas, they all swarm you like a buffet in the middle of a field. Can't chase them away, can't scratch them. Chronic itching becomes a part of life. Spring and fall? Just a break to worry more. You think, maybe spring and fall will be easier. No. Spring, the time when the mud is knee-deep, the fields are waterlogged, and rice seedlings need to be planted promptly. If they are late, they will starve all year. Autumn, harvest. You must both harvest and preserve your food before winter comes. If it gets moldy or gets eaten by rats, you will starve in January. There is no season to relax. Nature never gives you a chance to rest. Every day is a test. Storm. Rain, snow, unexpected verdicts. You are sleeping, and it starts to rain, and it goes right through the thatched roof. Water drips onto your face. The whole family wakes up, runs to get pots to catch the water. The thatched roof becomes a quagmire. You are harvesting, and it rains. The rice gets wet and moldy, and you don't have time to dry it. The crop is ruined. You are on your way to the market when it snows. The road is slippery. You fall, break your leg. No medicine, no splint. You have to crawl home. Nature doesn't care how tired you are. It simply does its job, exhausting you even more. How to survive. There is no secret. Only work continuously. Pray without ceasing. Don't challenge nature. If you were lucky, you survived the winter with a few potatoes left in the cellar. If you had a baby, you breastfed it until the age of 4, both food and life. And when night falls, you lie in the cold, damp straw, listening to the wind whistling through the walls, thinking about tomorrow, another day of fighting wind, sun, rain, snow. Welcome to the never-ending battle called weather. But don't cry too soon, because if you don't die of hunger, cold, or heat, you will surely have to face medieval medicine, where everything from the flu to a broken leg has the same treatment: bloodletting, poultices, and hope. See you in Chapter 8, Medicine or Polite Torture, where the doctor is also the butcher, and the cure can
kill you faster than the disease.
Congratulations, you're alive, still breathing after being subjected to the elements. But then, one fine morning, you wake up and feel not right. Maybe it's a fever. Maybe it's a festering cut, or worse, a toothache, a nosebleed, or diarrhea. Bad news. You are sick. Worse news. You're living in 14th century Europe, where medicine hadn't evolved enough to distinguish between healing and mortification. First, what is the reason you are sick? Do you think you have a cold? An infection? No. No one knew about bacteria or viruses back then. Microscopes hadn't been invented yet. Instead, they believed that the human body operated on 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If you felt bad, it meant that these humors were out of balance. For example, you have a fever? It's because of excess blood. Feeling nauseous? Maybe bile is rising. Insomnia? Black bile may be causing trouble. That's why the #1 solution to every disease is bloodletting. Yes, bloodletting. You have a headache? Cut your hand to bleed. You have a high fever? Bleed again. You have a stomach ache? Bleed a little and it will help. It can be by scraping the skin, cutting the hand, or simply using a hungry leech placed on the wrist to suck the poison out. They believe that excess blood is what makes you feel sick, so having blood drawn is an act of balancing the body. You can lose a pint of blood in one treatment. And if you don't die from the disease, you can die from the blood loss. No antibiotics. The concepts of germs, bacteria, and fungi were not known until centuries later. Therefore, a small open wound could become a death sentence. You step on a nail? Too bad. There is no antiseptic. They can apply ashes, powdered plants, or if you are lucky, alcohol. But most of the time, the wound will become infected, fester, and spread throughout your body. You get a high fever, shiver, and slowly go to see God. Every nail, every knife slash, every twig scratching your skin had the potential to kill you if you lived in the Middle Ages. Surgery, a never-ending torture. You think, can I at least go to the doctor and have the pus drained? No way. Who is your doctor? Your barber. That's right. The person who cuts your hair also cuts your flesh. They were called barber surgeons. No degrees, no licenses, just knives and faith. The medicine, the mysterious mixture. If you don't want to get cut, you can try your luck with medication. But don't expect aspirin or paracetamol. Medieval medicine is usually a combination of crushed leaves, clay, goat poop, yes, really, urine, sorry, still real, human skull powder. They believe the remaining soul in it will help heal. Monasteries had monks who prepared medicines, but their medical knowledge came mainly from ancient Greek and Roman books, plus faith. Many remedies are a combination of prayer, ritual, and a little weed. No testing, no dosage. Allergy? God forbid. Sometimes being sick means you're haunted. That's right. Some illnesses are not considered physical illnesses, but punishments from God. Are you having seizures? Possessed. Are you mentally ill? Possessed by a demon. Are you depressed? Lack of faith. Solutions? Prayer. Flogging to drive out evil spirits, or confinement to a monastery to purify the soul. There are people who are locked up for life just because they are too sad. And of course, you have to pay. No health insurance. No copay. You pay with chicken, duck, bread, a few coins, if any, or a promise to serve the monastery castle. If you are too poor, you can die on the porch. No one cares. So, who is actually being treated? Rich people. The nobility could invite famous doctors, men of slightly better education who could read Latin. But even so, their methods were very limited. In fact, many nobles died from overtreatment, overbleeding, accidental poisoning, or having kidney stones removed, with kitchen utensils. In short, medieval medicine wasn't about curing you. It was about taking a chance. You are sick. You can live. You can die. But if you let someone else treat you, sometimes death comes faster. So, back then, many people chose to do nothing. They let the disease pass on its own, or not. Now you get the idea. A pimple can kill you. A small cut, if infected, can send you back to dust. And the only person who can save you may be more dangerous than the disease itself. But let's forget about illness for now. Because even if you are healthy, you still have to live in a religious system that controls every aspect of your life, from birth, to eating, to getting married, to dying. See you in Chapter 9, Religion, Your Spiritual Host, where God knows what you think, and the church charges money for it. You've survived biting cold, deadly fevers, and doctors who pulled teeth with rusty pliers. But don't think for a moment that simply avoiding disease and the scythe of death means you're free to live your life the way you want. It's not. Because in the Middle Ages, freedom was a luxury. And you, whether a farmer, a blacksmith, or a merchant, lived under the shadow of a power more powerful than the king, the church. First, if the church is the ruler of your body, the church is the ruler of your soul. And they charge money for it. Today, in many churches, the ruler of your body, you start your ready with the sound of church bells. You end the day with prayer. Every season festival, even holiday, is tied to the religious calendar. You start your day with the sound of church bells. You end the day with prayer. Every season festival, even holiday, is tied to the religious calendar. You will have to finally the Latin, a language understood only by priests and scholars. You can read the Bible to verify it for yourself. You can read the Bible was written in your language. It was printed in Latin. A language is sermons with all your heart. Whatever he says, you will hear. No one has the right to question it. Ask again. Question. Doubt the doctrine? You are playing with fire. Hell is no joke. If you ask, how did they make people so afraid at that time? The answer is, they paint an afterlife that is even more terrifying than the current life of hunger and cold. The sermons describe hell in vivid detail. River of fire, devil with sharp fangs, boiling oil. Sinners were skinned, their legs cut off, and they were cooked alive. And the good thing is, almost everyone has a reason to be exiled there. You swear? Hell. Don't go to church? Hell. Have an impure dream? Hell. Don't pay your tithe? You get the idea. Tithing. The church knows how to do business too. Every year, 1/10 of your output or income must be given to the church. And you can be the poorest man in the village, eating porridge all week, but still have to give 1/10 of your beans, rice, eggs, or whatever you produce, to God. From weddings to funerals, every service comes with a voluntary, but mandatory contribution. This is didn't submit worth, hope you survive the winter without being ostracized from the community or ostracized from the village market. The church teaches you how to live, and also decides when you die. If you are accused of heresy, i.e. not believing 100% of what the church teaches, you will be imprisoned. Prohibition of community activities. And in severe cases, burned alive. Some people were convicted of heresy simply for saying, "I think God can forgive without intermediaries." Simple as that. And to prove them wrong, they were burned publicly, so that the villagers could learn from them. What about the truly religious? They are not much better. You can spend your whole life serving the church, being a monk, living in a monastery, fasting, praying, doing charity, and still not get to heaven. For a very simple reason. No one really knows for sure where they go after death. Everything is ambiguous, and that ambiguity is the church's most powerful weapon. Religion was the biggest niche of the Middle Ages. If you are a missionary, a priest, or a monk, you are in a powerful niche. Not only do you have a say in the villagers, but you can also influence the decisions of nobles and kings. Many kings had to seek the Pope's permission to divorce. A blessing could change the course of a war. The church was not just a spiritual center, it was a real political superpower. But undeniably, religion also brings hope. In a harsh age where you could die at any moment from fever, cold, hunger, war, prayer was the only thing that made you feel like you had somewhere to cling to. Faith gives the poor a little comfort, the sick a glimmer of hope, and society a structure of Lord of hope. For Moore said, like real clicks, when they will once, then needs hads, they will once. And they will one sides all. Also let us the right in the tent that leaven from, the church is the parket of the ad bring the sound. In short, medieval religion was the deep state. It controlled your thoughts, your wallet, your actions, and even your dreams. You cannot live outside of faith. And if you try to do so, society and the church will not stand for it. And especially if you are a woman, the church imposes another layer of control on you, from your body, your life, to your soul. See you in Chapter 10, The Fate of Women. born at a disadvantage. You have seen how men in the Middle Ages struggled, sleeping on worm-infested straw, eating moldy porridge, having their teeth pulled out with rusty pliers, working until their backs broke, and still not sure they would survive the winter. Sounds miserable, right? Now, please, switch to woman mode. If you think being a man back then was tough, being a woman was 10 times tougher. Not only did you have to face all the bad things that men had to endure, you also had an invisible chain attached to you: social discrimination, religious control, and biology that gave you no choice. You were not born to live for yourself. From a young age, you were taught that your sole purpose in life was to serve your family, your husband, your church, and never yourself. Your every action, word, and even thought must be decent, humble, and obedient. You are property, a commodity, a mobile social capital that your parents can marry off in exchange for land, alliances, or simply a flock of sheep. Marriage? You don't get to choose. If you were a peasant's daughter, you could be married off at 12 years old, not because of love, but because he is old enough, or because the other family has better fields, or simply because that person can give your family a cow. No one asked, "Do you like him? Are you ready to be a mother? Do you want to go to school or open a weaving shop?" No one cares. You have to get married. And once you are married, legally you are no longer an individual. You are your husband's property, under his management, like a hoe, a chicken, or a log cabin. Sex, there is no such thing as consent. As a wife, you have an obligation to serve your husband, including in bed. You cannot refuse. There is no, "I'm tired." There is no, "I don't want to." And if your husband beats you, society doesn't see it as a sin, because men have the right to discipline their wives, whether it's with words or with a stick. Pregnancy? It's a lottery of life and death. You were forced to get married early, then got pregnant repeatedly because there was no birth control. Every time you gave birth, you risked your life. No doctors, no professional midwives. Sometimes just a few neighbor ladies, some boiling water, some rags, and a lot of blood. There was no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no ultrasound to tell if the baby was breech. Many women died immediately after giving birth, or a few days later, from hemorrhage or infection. And if you make it, congratulations. You can go on to get pregnant again in a few months. And the child? Not sure if it will survive. Infant mortality rates are extremely high. As many as half of all children die before the age of 5. Whew. In addition to facing physical pain, you also have to prepare mentally to lose your child at any time. At least 2. There was a mother who gave birth to 10 children, and only 3 survived. You are not educated. Education? That's a boy's prerogative. If you were a noble, you might learn a little bit of literacy, enough to write love letters or recite prayers. But if you were a commoner's daughter, writing your name was a luxury. Books, knowledge, science, all written by and for men. You are taught that women don't need to be smart, but obedient. The church is not on your side either. Instead of protecting women, religion at that time reinforced the stereotype that women were the root of evil. Eromor, Mijona. Who caused Adam to be expelled from the Garden of Eden? Eve. Who is the symbol of temptation? Women. Who must cover their heads when entering church? Women. Who is most susceptible to the devil? You know the answer. And in that society, a woman who was too smart, too independent, or too unusual was easily labeled a witch. Then she was hung, tied to a stake, and burned alive. You have only two options: be a wife, be a mother, live in silence, obey until death. Be a nun, live in a monastery, never marry, spend your life in prayer, but also be forbidden to speak about the Bible and live under iron discipline. There is no option of free woman, entrepreneur, scholar, or leader. Those roles are stereotyped for men. But even when repressed, women survive. No matter how harsh the circumstances, women in the Middle Ages still found a way to overcome. Teach children to read from old pieces of leather. Make your own medicine from herbs in the forest. Share tips on giving birth, keeping the fire burning, sewing, and protecting children. Passing on stories, songs, and knowledge that is suppressed by society. Women don't just give birth to the next generation. They keep communities alive. In short, being born a woman in the Middle Ages, you didn't get to choose your path in life. It was already mapped out for you, and you were only allowed to follow it, quietly, patiently, submissively.
You have to be a wife, a mother, a slave to beliefs that you are not allowed to question.
And even though every day is a battle, no one calls you a warrior.
You think that's the end of suffering? Not yet.
Prepare for Chapter 11. Violence is everywhere, where death can come just because you look different, or simply get lost at night. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You're still alive, at least in theory. But don't breathe easy just yet. In medieval Europe, breathing in the wrong place could cost you a limb. Forget the peaceful scenes of grazing sheep and distant music. Life in this era was bloody, dangerous, and unpredictable. Every corner, every street, every market could be a minefield of violence. Justice? Sorry, you're thinking about the future. The concept of just law existed only on parchment, if at all. In the Middle Ages, justice meant whoever has the power is right. Are you a farmer? Sorry, the law is not written for you. Don't have any powerful relatives? Good luck surviving an accusation. You are a woman? Your words are not even worth the testimony of a donkey. In short, if someone accuses you, you can be set off on a chain of horrific events without any evidence. Steal bread? You lose your hand. That's right, a loaf of bread, something you might need to feed your children, can get your arm chopped off in the middle of the market. Punishment is not meant to educate, but to intimidate, to make others see and fear. These punishments are held publicly, in front of a crowd, like a performance. People bring their kids, eat, drink, laugh, while your hands are pressed against the chopping block and hacked with an axe. Cruel, but legal. Suspected of being a witch? Arrested? Tortured? Burned alive? You can be convicted just because you have a black cat, or because you live alone, without a husband or children, or because you are smarter than society allows a woman to be. They tie you up, dunk you in water. If you float, it means witch, execution. If you drown and die, sorry, you're innocent, but it's too late. The trial of God, lottery justice. Not enough evidence? No problem. Let God decide. For example, you are accused of theft. To prove your innocence, you must reach into a pot of boiling water to get an ice cube from the bottom, then bandage it, and wait. If after 3 days the wound heals without infection, you are innocent. If it is red, swollen, festering, or rotten, you are guilty. Remember, there were no antiseptics, no medical professionals. So the chance of infection was almost 100%. And you died from heat stroke, literally and figuratively. Domestic violence is not an isolated incident. You think home is safe? No. A wife being beaten by her husband is not a scandal, it is discipline. Being beaten with a broken stick is not abuse, it is strict discipline. A man beats his sister for refusing to marry the man their father arranged. No one intervenes. Domestic violence was not condemned back then. It was accepted as a part of life. Looting, revenge, and rioting were commonplace. With no police in the modern sense, fights, robberies, and personal settlements were virtually unchecked. The town at night was a place where the law of the jungle reigned. A group of drunk soldiers can rob you of all your stuff with no one to stop them. Some nobleman who finds you annoying might order his soldiers to arrest you, beat you, and throw you out on the street. A person who stabs another person in the middle of a market can plead insulted honor and get a reduced sentence. War, always a lurking threat. Don't think that the Middle Ages were all about peaceful fields and countryside. Big and small wars happened all the time, and the common people were always the ones who suffered. Today, you are plowing the fields. Tomorrow, the soldiers come to take you to join the army. Your wife and children are left unprotected. Your village was burned down because the enemy needed to be punished. Property and food were robbed. Children were taken into slavery or left to die. In those days of war, there were no Geneva rules, no soldiers and civilians. Who lived, who died? It was all a matter of luck. And don't forget, honor killing. Curse someone? Insult someone? Look at someone else's wife for too long? Chances are you'll get stabbed in the back the next evening. Honor killings are not considered a serious crime, especially if you are a person of high status. Sometimes just a rumor can make you a target for the purge. Public execution. Entertainment for the masses. Imagine you go to an execution. The prisoner was tied to a wooden stake in the middle of the square. The whole village came to watch, bringing food, beer, and children. The accused was burned, beheaded, or hanged, depending on how entertaining the case was. Afterwards, people celebrated, chatted, and discussed who would be next. Violence is not just punishment, it is celebration. In short, you live in a world where justice is a game of chance, your life is cheaper than a pig, and blood on the streets is not a rare occurrence. It is an everyday occurrence. Every day you survive is a miracle, not because of medicine or the legal system, but because you haven't fallen into the crosshairs of anyone with power. You think the violence stops there? It doesn't. See you in the final chapter. Chapter 12. Early Death. Congratulations. If you're still alive, you're a miracle. No kidding. Surviving a day in the Middle Ages was a feat in itself. But living to 40? You were practically a living legend. In this final chapter, we will look at the one thing that all medieval people lived with, feared, and could not avoid. Death. Average life expectancy. Small numbers, big consequences. Let's start with a number. The average life expectancy of people in the Middle Ages was between 30 and 40 years old. Average here doesn't mean everyone dies at that age. It's a number dragged down by one terrible factor: the infant mortality rate. Nearly 50% of children die before they turn 5. Death is not a shock, it is a part of life. If you survive childhood, you can hope to live to 50, 60, but that's rare. Every year you live is another year you've passed through the jaws of disease, war, famine, and senseless accidents. Cause of death. Take your pick. They're all scary. Disease. You sneeze. 3 days later, you die. It could be bubonic plague, typhoid, or smallpox. There are no vaccines, no antibiotics, no masks. No one knows what a germ is. They just think you're punished by God. Work accident. Chopping wood, axe flies into your leg. Plowing a field, a bull gores you and breaks your ribs. Picking apples, fall from a tree. Movie over. No first aid, no surgery. A broken bone means paralysis, then infection, then death. Infection. A small scrape on the knee. A few days later it turns red and swollen, then purple and black, then high fever, delirium, sepsis. You can't clean the wound because no one knows to do so. Death does not choose people. Children die of diarrhea. Young man died of minor cuts. Women die in childbirth. Old people, rare, but usually die of cold. Old people? If you met a white-haired, toothless, hunchback person back then, you wouldn't call them old man. They were legendary survivors. They knew some survival secrets that you didn't. Don't think being noble is better. They have money, but no knowledge. A noble with a stomachache can die from overbleeding. Their doctors are the ones who draw star charts, rub snakes on their bodies, or put leaves on their foreheads. Sometimes the very care they receive is what causes them to die sooner. There is always the fear. Who will be next? No one knows if today will be their last day. You can be healthy in the morning, feverish in the afternoon, and buried at night. Children grow up not with the dream of becoming a doctor or becoming an inventor, but hopefully I live long enough to be a father or mother. No long-term plans, no retirement, just the present, and one day, hopefully not taken away. Died for a silly reason. You can die from suffocated in fire because house made of wood. Smoke inhalation from sleeping next to the fireplace. All of these can be death sentences. So what do we learn? When you step into a clean bathroom, turn on the hot water, open the fridge to get milk, or curse at the poor internet connection. Remember the people who live their whole lives without knowing these things exist. We don't live perfectly, but we live in ways they never dreamed possible. Thank you for coming along on this journey. If you found value in what you just heard, please like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. Who knows, someone might need a reminder that the times we live in are actually a miracle.